Da, 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 la. Well, welcome everybody. In the absence of an actual theme tune, you get me dodling. Welcome to yet another Inworld review. Today we're broadcasting from Metaverse Broadcasting Studios over on the Great Canadian Grid, and it's a bit of a surprise. This is where we meant to be, but earlier today we thought we were going to have to go back to Second Life due to something of a sort of hiccup on the servers. But thanks to the ever sweating but profusely industrious Robin Maggi, we are back and good to go here on the show. Now, we had planned on having Tommy from Third Rock Grid with us today, but amongst the other things that went wrong today, he has a problem with Comcast, which is affecting his voice over IP. So he'll be joining us this time next week instead. I believe he's sort of in the background on the Skype call, but we're not really receiving his voice from him. But we're down to the rest of our guests, and we've got a fun show for you lined up. We are, as always, brought to you here in association with AView TV, and the edition you are watching, just get the formalities out the way, is the one dated the 31st of January of the grand old year 2015.
Yay, Mel! Mel!
He has not failed this year yet, but as the year goes on, I'm likely to lapse.
Oh yes, the real test is about March.
Yeah, well, actually, the real test will be if we got a show on April Fool's Day. I haven't checked my diary yet, but I'll probably be in the next century by then. Right. Okay. Well, as you can see, after last week's session in Second Life, where I got my old the good old skin back. I'm sorry, but I'm back into plastic surgery mode. I must say, I do have a fairly colourful moustache for a change, actually, and a slightly different haircut. And the plastic surgery is beginning to become presentable. Hopefully, it will improve more as time goes by. I'm just not used to looking into the virtual mirror and seeing a different me. Anyway, let's get on with business. Now, I'm going to bypass my headlines for the time being. I've got some various notes up from my Twitter feed. You can find links to news throughout the week, basically at twitter.com/Malburns, all one word. So general Metaverse news and stuff like that. So I'll probably be referring to a few things as we go along. But I'll be sort of handing over to Tara and Maria mostly for their headlines before I bring on our guests. But I will start by introducing our guests because you may hear them anyway, and it's only polite that I'll tell you who they are. So we are joined here today with Tara and Maria. Sitting next to Tara, we have none other than Joe Builder. Joe Builder may or may not be a familiar name to you. He's very active in the hypergrid, and he's been on our safaris and things like that. And I hesitate to describe him as CEO because he owns his own grid called The Lost World. But rather uniquely, it's astonishingly vast. You know, his airlines region and his boating regions and racetracks are kind of 62 sim megas, but they tend to be hosted on his own servers, and as is quite common in OpenSim, he brings these online, not all the while, but he brings particular grids online or simulators on the grid online as needed for people to have events and stuff like that. So welcome to the show, Joe.
Thank you very much there, Mal.
And we're also joined for the first time in our hypergrid-enabled shows by somebody who's been with us before, albeit when we forced her to come to Second Life
to
tolerate the lag and everything else that is Second Life. And it's Leslie Kling, who, of course, is one of their partners behind Tangle Grid and indeed now Westworld. and another very familiar face in the community. I'm very pleased to say that all the people we're having here, including Tommy, who will be with us next week, they all belong to what I might call a sort of group of well-minded people who, despite running separate grids and things, do tend to help each other out an awful lot. And I think we'll be coming to that a little bit later. Anyhow, to get the show off and running, I will duly hand over the microphone to Tara to start with her update of various things throughout the week. So over to you, Tara. And unfortunately,
and it's so much fun to try to get a camera set up and talk at the same time. I just but I don't walk and chew gum together. That's a disaster. Anyhow, greetings from the Pacific Northwest, which is in the RL Sim entirely overrun with Seahawks and Super Bowl mania. It's quite amusing. Anyway, but in the world, in the virtual worlds, there probably is a virtual Super Bowl happening someplace. Actually, the thing that I'm perhaps most amused about, this isn't virtual worlds, but it's close enough. Hallmark Productions does a Kitten Bowl that they broadcast on Super Bowl Sunday, and this year is Kitten Bowl number 2, and I've seen some previews and some pre-game warm-ups and what have you, and it's totally cute and very fun. Anyway, I don't get Hallmark at home, but I'm hoping I'll be able to see enough of it to get the gist of it when it happens. They've just really outdone themselves on that. Anyway, to come back to virtual worlds, let's see. I obviously am focusing primarily on news from Second Life, just because nobody else is, in part. But one noteworthy item: former Linden Lab CEO Rod Humble has announced the release of his new game, Cults and Daggers, as of. Under the Chap Hat label. It's going to be out on February 12th and will be available through Steam. Kind of an interesting concept, as he describes it. He sought to explore beyond the traditional strategy game model of build and fight. And it's basically, anyway, I'll let you read the news releases in the interest of time, but I thought that was kind of a pretty... Did you see that, Mel?
Yeah, I was actually quite fascinated. The subversive in me rather likes the idea that, I don't approve of them at all, but you sort of, instead of creating your own tribe and having a battle, you create your own religion.
Yeah. And the time frame. Yeah, the time frame of the game is from roughly the birth of Buddha to the birth of Jesus. Yeah. Is the time frame that the game is set in.
I have no idea what time frame that is actually, but yes, death of Buddha to birth of Christ or something. But fascinating stuff for game players, I suppose.
Anyway, it's kind of an interesting concept. Apparently, he said what Rob said was he wanted players to challenge themselves by navigating the chaotic web created by corruption, religious avarice, and betrayal as rival factions vie for power. Anyway, so that's that. Yeah. And unbeknownst to us, this got completely under the radar. Apparently, Rod released an album, music, dance electronic music, which came out last April, just a few months after he left the lab. So I didn't see anything on that, but I thought that was pretty cool.
One wonders if that was what he was doing when he was meant to be around the lab, but never mind. In the recording studio.
Yeah. Anyway, in other things, the lab has opened a new four-region section called Winter Wonderland and released a little package of new premium gifts as well as some freebies that are open for everybody. The next time we're on in Second Life, you'll see the penguins who wander around if you let them, and apparently will follow you. I had two of the 4 I released end up back in my inventory today, presumably because they wandered into the wrong the wrong parcel.
Yeah.
Yeah, they wanted it in the wrong neighborhood and got sent home. Yeah. Anyway, this Winter Wonderland sounds pretty fun. With there's a war zone where you can have snowball fights. And Inara Pay was in there apparently when they first opened, or as a preview, and had a snowball fight with Abby Linden amongst others, which makes it sound pretty fun. But she had some good things to say about
snowball fights with Lindens. That's an old tradition, isn't it? Or those
there is an old tradition.
It's earlier in the year.
Heck, I'd even pay to do that. Throw a snowball at
well,
Linden.
Yeah. Well, it's really unfortunate they didn't roll this out more like the middle of December. And here it is, the 1st of February. And while the northeast corner of the U.S. is enjoying lots of snow, the rest of us are starting to think about spring. So, at least in this corner of the world.
I hope I'm not preempting you here, but something that came up this morning too is that apparently Linden Labs have brought in 200 of obviously paid for by themselves water regions up. And there is a bid going on apparently to while you can get it to buy up waterfront property and take advantage of the 200 water sims.
Yeah, well, I can kind of understand if the Blake Sea is maybe busy enough or too busy, and there've been complaints or whatever. Having more places where people can stick boats in the water and sail around in more than one region is a good thing.
Well, I can actually. I'm also going to be a bit naughty here. We'll be talking to Joe Builder, who's here shortly. But I was over at one of his sims that he brought up during the week, which I guess was 64, a mega prim of a mega region of 64 water sims with a few islands. So we went racing on some boats.
That was actually a 36 region where the water is. The actual race car and for the airplanes, there's on a 64 region mega.
Right. Well, anyway, I didn't have much success with my planes, or certainly not the cars. But when I got in that boat, it accelerated away, and there was no feeling of being constrained by sim boundaries. This thing was away. And I must say, it was great. It gave me a nice feeling driving this powered boat all over the place and chasing each other.
Yes. Well, anyway, to come back to kind of get to the last of my items here.
Yes,
that's all right. Hey, this distractions and deviations. This is the name of this show. Sometimes, opening tomorrow is Mad P's latest grid-wide challenge called Buried. And this sounds like Mad P has outdone themselves yet again, as they are very good at doing. This is going to run for a couple of months. And it sounds like it's kind of a challenge within a challenge. And while there's some prizes and stuff, it sounds like the challenges of it are more engaging than ever, and the storyline is more engaging. Basically, it's a girl who has vanished off the grid, and she was doing some kind of research involved with a geocaching company called Go Find, and so you get to do some of their geocaching finding too as you try to locate her and unravel her story. Anyway, it sounds like a great time, and they're setting that interesting enough that don't plan to try to get in and start the game tomorrow, because the initial islands that you have to spend time in, they're limiting access to 20 avatars at a time. So it may be a couple of weeks before you can get in unless you go in at a really strange time. But
that seems very wise, given the demand. So let the first 20 move freely and move on, and then the next lot come in.
Speaking of Linden Lab, is currently advertising for a number of engineer positions, and while some of these are concerned with whatever Second Life version 2 is going to ultimately be called, but some of them are specific to Second Life. So that is certainly viewed as a positive note by those who noted that. So if you happen to be in San Francisco, Boston, or Seattle, and you have engineering skills and might like to work for Linden Lab, go check out the Linden Lab website and check out their current positions. There's a pretty good spread here. There's probably, there's a couple that are just Boston. There's a few that are just Seattle or San Francisco, and then there's a bunch that are all three. So Oculus Rift, an interesting item. Oculus Rift is at Sundance with apparently the first of their new in-house, in the form of their new in-house film studio called Story Studio, which is showcasing the first of 5 animated short films the company plans to make under the Story Studio banner over the course of the next year. What really caught my attention about this announcement is that this has kind of a piece of fallout, as they have attempted to present the Oculus in to movie production, high-end movie production folks, and the kind of the reaction is, well, what do I do with it? And so they figured out this is a way to showcase the possibilities. So and they're being very open-handed and in fact want people to ask questions and inquire and stuff. So very interesting chunk of the Oculus story. And related, I would say related to that was an announcement this week by where's my Rothenberg Ventures, one of those wonderful venture capitalist outfits, announced this week that they have formed a VR accelerator program, and they have announced the first batch of participants, startups in the VR realm that will be recipients of $100,000 as well as office space and regular advice and help from a team of expert mentors that includes Philip Rosedale and several other luminaries. Anyway, either of you may have more on that, but it's at venturebeat.com is the information if you want to see the list of the startups that are the recipients of accelerator funds. And my final one, I think I had one more little item here. Oculus. Oh, yes. Monday, February 2nd, another event. This is a one-day. Monday marks the 6th annual Mole Day celebrations in Second Life. And this will be taking place at the Bay City Fairgrounds in the Simmons North Passage. The moles are the Linden Department of Public Works and are responsible for things like roads and various official roads, railways, waterways, etc. I'll say that 3 times fast.
Yeah. No, thank
anyway,
you.
this is, it's not quite a volunteer program, but anyway, they're drawn from residents. Yeah,
It's breaking up.
Yes, I think your voice is breaking up, Tara, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, that's on Tuesday, or Monday rather. Is that Mole Day celebration? And that's it for me. So back to you, Mel, and I'll pay attention to cameras now.
Okay, many thanks, Tara. And I'm doing the same thing, flipping back to myself. Well, before I head over to Maria for all the serious news, as it were, I've got a few links up that I will mention. I can't give you the links, but as I said, you can find them on my Twitter feed. By the way, if you want events, destinations, and primary bloggers to do with Second Life, I have another Twitter feed at twitter.com/Melbournes_writer. And that is very much, as a rule, Second Life specific. But it does actually include all the videos we find from YouTube and Vimeo and places during the course of the week. The sort of thing that we used to show on the live stream channels. Right. So just to have a quick glance at my feed. Virtual games try to generate real empathy for faraway conflicts. Again, you'll find that on my Twitter feed. The link has come via Flippis, so I can't really give you that very easily. And there's a feature on somebody called the godmother of virtual reality, Noni de la Pena. Yes, and I must admit, I know very little about this woman, but it was an article on her during the week, which I found quite interesting. Even though
we talked about her last week.
We did, okay.
She did a documentary on Syria, the immersive virtual reality documentary.
Right.
Sundance.
Okay.
And one of our authors interviewed her for a story on immersive journalism a couple of weeks before that.
Right.
So she's an old familiar name to our audience.
Right. Everybody said me about it. Okay.
Not to you.
During the week, there were a number of videos posted. And then again, I've got the links up at YouTube from the Silicon Valley VR, SVVR, meetup number 17. Various talks and things introducing materials from there. And as usual, Adam O'Time has got his daily sort of personality news bulletin, including a look on the 26th at Australia Day, which was celebrated on one of the grids. I think it was the third roll, but I can't be sure. Yes, there was also a lovely article during the week called "How Virtual Reality Ate the Sundance Film Festival," which, well, a nice dramatic headline there, really. A lot of reviews of the mixed reality HoloLens thing that Microsoft had brought out that we spoke about last week. So ever in focus there. The Devokan storytellers, Devokan storytellers, have been celebrating 5 years in OpenSim. Where else? And something else, I'm not at all sure whether they actually have this in OpenSim or whether it's one of their offline projects, but Dayton, a tech company in the Midlands in Britain here, they used to be in Second Life and all over the place. They have actually tested the new version of their chatbot. Their chatbot was the basic idea is like you have like an MP. Well, it's not an NPC, but like an avatar bot in a world like Second Life, and it engages in conversation and acts as a replacement for a real live avatar. Well, apparently the new version of Dayton's chatbot has significantly passed the new modified Turing test in a virtual world, which is rather exciting. I mean, you can't just pass the Turing test. You can if you're human like us, but I mean, yeah, well, exactly. However, Dayton's chatbot has managed to do it. So good on Dave Burden and the crowd up there. They always come up with remarkable stuff. Our old friend Will Burns, actually, at his blog, City, I can give you this one, it's City of Nidus, that's cityofnidus.blogspot.com, has a piece called The Future is Holographic. Clearly, this was spot as a response to the Holo What's-It of Microsoft invention. But Will is known for writing long, involved posts, and that was one of them, quite a good one. Also, the Guardian newspaper, the Guardian, all one word.com/technology section, their podcast this week was on the dawn of augmented and the dawn of augmented and virtual reality technologies. And that was quite an interesting listen. It's actually always a good show, that, but I don't always have time to give it a listen. Our friend Winter Silversmith at the Common Journal has had quite a few posts this week. You can find him at commonjournal.com. That's CORRANJOURNAL.com. And obviously he's had quite a lot on the Great Canadian Grid here, amongst other things. An article I have tagged called Bridging Boundaries. To be honest, I can't remember what this article is, but the link is in my Twitter stream, and it wouldn't be there if it wasn't worth reading, even though yours truly's memory has gone a bit flaky today. And heading up to the top of the list. Obviously, Hypergrid Business, we will cover in a minute. A post from Reaction Grid at blogspot.com, reactiongrid.blogspot.com. Reaction Grid, of course, is where I originally had my own little sim estate, which is now south example of us here on Great Canadian Grid, reinvented, based on the original OAR file. ACES is the name of the article. It's a new system from Reaction Grid that adds live in-world customization to your Jibe 3D multi-user virtual world. Now, Jibe 3D, as far as I know, is still based pretty, developed from the Unity 3D core. And you download a Unity or a Jibe plugin to actually look at these virtual environments, and they are not, as a rule, interconnected. They're kind of standalone environments that work well for, companies and things that simply want to create their own simulated environment for you to view and to do so via the web. But this actually does sound interesting because it will allow visitors to Jibe worlds on the web to actually get involved with a degree of customization that maybe is more familiar to users of OpenSim here, or indeed the old worlds like Second Life. So that sounds like rather good news too. And I think I'm about ready to go to Maria. Virtual reality adoption accelerating indeed. And porn. And porn, she says. And we've got, these are actually other links I've got, but Xandramas is now known as Zangrid, and a few various other things. But I think I can safely hand over to her. The only other thing I have got here, and I'm not actually quite sure what it's doing in my Twitter feed, but the Great Canadian Grid .ca, which is where we are based, it had an unfortunate incident. I think it originated with a local, some kind of power cut up in Canada on the server farm that hosts their servers. And it was down, and they had a real database malfunction this morning. We really didn't think we were going to be back up in time to do this show, but thanks to Roddy, we are. So you'll see a couple of tweets from me saying GCG is down, and a few tweets from me saying, hey, it's back up. So just to get that clear, current status is back up, or I wouldn't be here, and neither would the rest of us, including Maria, to whom I shall now hand the microphone.
Okay, so let's start with the porn, since I'm sure that's what everybody else wants to hear about. There's been a flood of news about virtual reality in the news. Mel, you mentioned a whole bunch of these things. Oculus Rift has a new virtual video division. Vice Media has a virtual reality division where they do virtual news and Annapurna Pictures. They're the ones who did Zero Dark 30 and American Hustle and Her. They have a new virtual reality division and an app to go with it that works on both iOS and Android headsets that you drop the phone into. Lots of stuff happening. Qantas, the airline, is giving away Samsung virtual reality, the Gear VR headsets to its first-class passengers.
Can I just interrupt to say, because you briefly mentioned Google Cardboard. You may have noticed this anyway, but I noticed this morning. There is a new company started up, which is selling Google Cardboard, but they're all customized printed because they think nobody really wants to wander around with a piece of cardboard on their head. So it's still Google Cardboard, but it's like got a nice finish and it's laminated. you buy your kit.
Do you know which company? What the name of the company is?
I don't. I'll have to double check. It was in one of my feeds today.
I have a list of about 20 Google Cardboard manufacturers on Hypergood Business that I linked to from this story.
Right.
And I like to keep that list up to date because a lot of people refer to it. And and you can get Google Cardboard for like $5 for a kit you assemble yourself, all the way up to $50 for a nice plastic rubber kind of thing that's a little bit more permanent. But I would suggest that people try out the cheap one, see if they like it, and if they like it, if they plan to use it, then buy a more permanent version. Keep in mind, these things are going to evolve so quickly. Don't bother putting in more money than you can afford, you can afford on this.
Actually, Even if you buy Google Cardboard and you don't like the look of the cardboard, you can always paint it yourself.
Yeah, well, yes, you can cover it with duct tape or something too. But no, in terms of like the apps, if you like the apps, if they're engaging, if you like the basic design, the basic theory of it, if it doesn't make you nauseous, then go ahead and buy a nicer headset. But again, we're having so many headsets hitting the market from so many different manufacturers. There's so much competition. It's going to be a very, very fast pace of evolution, because people have seen how fast the markets can move. I mean, look at how fast mobile phones spread across the whole planet. Everybody is aware of this, that the adoption cycle for technology has been accelerating recently. And so if a company wants to have an impact, they need to go in early, and they need to go in big, and they need to iterate quickly and keep making improvements. So expect to see that happen in virtual reality. So don't spend too much money up front, because it's all going to change very quickly. Or you can hop on a flight to Australia and buy a first class ticket, and you can try out the Google Gear VR headset, which is a nicer high-end one, but it's the same basic principle. You can watch basically movies in 3D and virtual experiences while on this really long flight. Yes. So new applications coming out. There's a DC startup, Agora, that wants to use the VR for business meetings and seminars with the Oculus. There's a Norwegian university looking at it to train nurses. A whole bunch of conferences are coming up. The closest one is the Southwest VR conference in Bristol in the UK. And there's a whole bunch of other specialized conferences around the world. If these conferences are too big or too far for you, check out virtual reality meetup groups. There are already 166 of them around the planet.
Oh.
Yes. Boston alone has like 4.
Okay.
So
that sounds like overkill, but never mind.
Well, no, because we have MIT, we've got a lot of startups, we have the biomedical groups. So the 4 groups have different focuses.
Yeah.
There's people who are focused on hardware, people who are focused on software. Lots of stuff happening. So much stuff happening. So porn. So first of all, there's a really cute video on YouTube about people watching virtual reality porn for the first time. And they have a nice cross-section of porn aficionados and porn newbies of both genders checking this out. The dirty parts are covered up, and mostly you just see the reactions of the people who are watching it. It's very funny. It's very funny. And it really underscores how immersive this is and how big of a market it is going to be very soon. And
it's like video and everything else. The first people on board are the porn industry or the sexual services industry to be polite. And I don't know what Facebook will make of this, given their censorship habits. But it was inevitable that Oculus would gain a market there.
So there's 2 kinds of porn right now for virtual reality. There's porn videos and there's porn games. With a porn video, they have a 360-degree camera that they film the porn with, and you are a passive observer. You're like sitting there in the middle of an orgy, and you can turn your head and you can look in different directions and the different angles, and you kind of feel like you're there in the middle of the action, but you can't touch. Okay.
The lap dance syndrome.
And you can pause and rewind, but you can't really interact with any of the actors because it's a video. It's just playing there, but it's playing all around you, like in surround sound and surround video in 3D. It's all coming right at you.
Come on, Maria!
And I guess some
you
people
just put your foot in it with that dialogue.
I did not
chased across the stage by a giant penis. Hello.
I did not mean to. Anyway, so all this stuff is happening, but you can't touch. And then and it's all obviously they're shooting this in high definition and with good lighting, and so it feels very realistic, except for the fact that you can't interact with it. The other kind of porn is the avatar based porn, the Second Life kind of thing. And that's happening as well. And you get a bunch of companies are making these kind of like interactive games and interactive social environments. Now, obviously, any of us could right now, switch our OpenSim viewers to Oculus Rift mode, throw off our clothes and do whatever we want in here in 3D. But there's more appropriate venues for that,
yes.
Namely Second Life.
Not this show, anyway.
No. But beyond Second Life, there's platforms that are specifically designed for adult activity. Otherverse Red Light Center, they have a viewer that's designed for the Oculus Rift, and they're all about adult content. And they have, like, instead of a destination directory, they have a directory of virtual escorts with ratings, and that whole thing. They're really geared up for the adult side.
It's all the animations are built into their viewer.
Yeah.
No pose balls.
That's beyond my knowledge, but we can work for it.
I was there 3 years.
All right. Yes. So they really hopped on the Oculus bandwagon very early on. They could see it coming, and they were at the AVN, which is Adult Video Conference of some kind or other, recently, showing all this stuff off. So that's happening, and I think it's really gonna usher in virtual reality at a rapid pace for us, because really, who wouldn't want that? Okay, so on a more prosaic note, you already mentioned Xandromas Grid. They're changing the name to XanGrid tomorrow. They're relaunching with a new name, new website, new logo. More importantly, new membership model. There used to be an invite-only grid. Now anybody can join if they pay $5. The $5 is taken off your first land purchase, so you do get the money back if you rent land. And it's designed to keep down alts and to keep out crazy people.
They are going to be hypergrid enabled, though, aren't they? Presumably.
No.
Okay.
Only one region will be hypergrid enabled, Club Xandromas, and that's it. So they're dipping the toe into the hypergrid and seeing what works out. Because they're very much kind of want to have a safe environment for our residents, that kind of grid. And it's hard to do that when you're wide open.
Pay $5 a time at customs doesn't sound like a good hypergrid idea anyway. Sorry.
Yeah. So I would not have any idea how they could possibly collect that. So that's happening. And then there's a new release of OpenSim out. It's the preview release. So if you're a grid owner, especially if you're a commercial grid owner, then you would install this on your beta grid to test it out and make sure that all your systems are ready for an upgrade. If you have any plugins or custom modules, that kind of stuff, you would make sure that they work together. And it improves teleports, physics, regions, scripting, a whole bunch of minor improvements that I list in the story. Nothing really, really major. For me, the most useful part is the show grid size command. It will give you the size of your grid in kilometers. So it's a way to add up all these variations. Because
I was just
normally,
ask that, is that going to be able to show a VAR as a, like if you have a 2x2, is it actually going to count as 4 regions then? Yeah,
Well,
great.
it's going to count it in kilometers, but then you divide by 15.25 to get the number of regions.
Okay.
Because it's 15 kilometers.
Because that's the only reason. That's the only reason we're not going ahead so much with the VARs, because we're going to lose on our stats. Excuse me. If I have a VAR of, let's say, 4, that leaves 4 regions gone, which is only showing 1 on the stats. So our region count goes really down with the VARs at the moment.
Well, what some grids are doing is they're putting an asterisk next to their stats count, and they're listing the number of variable regions, and then having and reminding me to add those into the stats as they come in. Now this is obviously a short-term workaround, because then you have to change the stats page every time you add variable size regions.
Right.
But meanwhile, that's what grids are doing to get their accurate land count up, because regions are just too much fun to have, especially if you have vehicles, or you have role-playing groups that want a lot of space, or you want to give people more land without making them at a discount. You put it all in a region, because it's less of a burden on the processor.
And this new version of OS that's coming out, is it fully tested per se?
No, it's the preview release. So this is the testing release. So in addition to making sure that all your modules work with it, this is also the opportunity to put it through its paces and to report any bugs back, so they can fix it before the final release. Because especially things that that your grids in particular needs, you want to make sure those things are addressed before it goes into the final release. And I recommend that everybody do that. Be a good citizen, help OpenSim, but also so you're prepared for when it does come out.
And that's on your website. Information on that.
OpenSim preview release improves teleports and the physics. That's one of the top stories.
Okay.
Check. In fact, it's the top story right now.
Okay.
So
while you're on that point, Maria, I think that if we could just take a break while you're on that point, I'd like to move over to Joe just briefly. We'll talk about other things later. But Joe, when I visited Lost World with you during the week, we had obviously you showed the safari people the big racetrack and everything else, and I mentioned earlier the water sort of business, but you told me that these aren't far regions, they're mega regions, aren't they, which is something very different.
Mega regions been around for some time. The problem with the mega regions is they're very simple, but a lot of people don't understand them. They're actually run very well in Kitely. That's one of their most superior regions, is their megas. Kitely's not really too much involved in Bullet or the VAR, even though they have it as an option for some people that prefer to be a fiddler. I call them fiddlers or testers for this the new versions that they're coming out with. To be honest, I have tried them both. Being that I run a home PC and I have all these regions, I need something that is going to be resource friendly. I need something that's actually going to work at 100%. I do every type of vehicle known: motorcycles, spaceships, boats, submarines, cars, and everything runs very well. Actually, it runs pretty close to SL quality, is what I was after. And the only way to achieve that is all this testing I've done tells me that it's an older version, which is the 7.6.1, and the ODE physics, which to me, the physics of ODE is superior than the basic Bullet. Bullet is just right out of the box. It's a great physics engine for movies and online gaming. It's not tuned for OpenSim as of yet. So that's why it's just like Havoc. Remember 2004 when Second Life had Havoc? Well,
Yep.
Havoc pays engineers, where we have fella that donates his time,
Yeah.
Thank him for what he does. But it took SL many years to get these physics plugins to achieve their superior physics they have now. But like I said, we're stuck at a basic age of Bullet where it only does so much. They said, well, Bullet will allow you to do this. Okay. I'm not a scripter by no means. What I do is I use 2007, 2008 old OpenSim's scripts, and all I do is modify them. I spend many hours, being that I'm not a scripter, and I change all the parameters. I make it superior than what it was. So my cars will naturally go some ungodly speed, like 800, 900 miles an hour.
Yes.
The planes will fly upside down, do loops in the air. They'll do anything that Havoc will do. It's all in the scripting. It's got nothing to do with physics.
Right. We'll come back to that when I go into some more detail about some of your amazing builds and stuff. But I really just wanted to bring you in there because before Maria finishes the headlines, because you did mention to me something about the drawbacks of VAR regions, didn't you, the other day?
Yeah. There's a lot of issues with them that are. It's not a performance issue, but they still have a lot of bugs, being that it's a hack from the Aurora project, So Robert Adams did a little hack to get it to work. Even though they say megas are a hack, who knows if that's true or not? I don't know. I haven't been here that long.
Maybe everything is just a hack, and if it works, it works. Okay, well, I'm going to come back to you in a bit more depth in a minute, Joe. But I think I better get back to Maria for the continuation of the headlines there. Sorry, Maria. I thought that was relevant.
Okay, so I should just summarize the difference between megas and VARs. If you have an older viewer, you want to be using megas. Because only the new viewers support the variable size regions. The latest release of OpenSim fixes a bunch of bugs about variable size regions, and also a bunch of bugs with bullet sim physics, and it upgrades to a later version. So that might be one thing to check out. But basically, they both what they both do is they eliminate border crossings. They make a 4x4 or a 3x3 or 16 region size region look and feel like a single region. So it's excellent for vehicles. There's no hiccups on borders. For the most part, they're interchangeable. But there was a problem with teleporting into various parts of a VAR region. Those have been fixed. They're recommending that people do go with VAR regions if they can. It works better with the newer viewers. It's a little bit more stable. I think it's a little bit less of a load on processors, and and that's where all the development effort is going.
Actually, they're double. They use double the resources as ODE or Mega. I mean, when you put on either or, like I test a 2048 by a 2048, which is 64 regions, and I look at my task manager, the Bullet and the VAR uses a gig more. So I can't have this. I'm on a home PC. I need all the power I can get. But hopefully they'll get it fixed, and we'll be good to go.
Yeah, definitely something to watch out for, because this is the direction that they're going into. Okay, and do check out the new release. See if they've solved some of the issues that you were having with it. I'm actually done with my news. It was a heavy week for me at work, so it's been a light week for me in OpenSim. I think I'll have a little bit more news coming up this week, but I'm all set.
Oh, thanks very much. I knew you were busy. In fact, we also had a message from Roddy asking that we can get Great Canadian Grid and a new Metaworld into Hyperica. I don't know whether he means Hyperica, the region, and the gates, or whether he means the website. But I'll get together with you on that if we haven't got it there already.
Yeah, I'm behind on Hyperica editions. I've been getting a lot of submissions to Hyperica. And, the big news, I've hired a scripter.
Oh.
And the scripter, Lisa Laxton, went in and she fixed the gates for me. And I will be checking them out, testing them out tomorrow, seeing how well that works. And if they work, then I will be adding in a whole bunch more gates into Hyperica. So
Cool.
that's my agenda for the rest of this weekend.
As I slide Mary a note card.
Yes. Very, very good indeed.
And everything is CC0, so I will be sharing this with anybody who wants to set up a hyperport. Not only are these easily configurable gates, but there's a central manager that will update all the gate scripts at once, so you don't have to manually go around and update them. So I will be posting that online as a Creative Commons public domain licensed scripts.
Cool. That's something I need to get fixed.
Okay, well, we're 15 minutes into the show, so I think it's about time we sort of moved over to our guests. So thank you, Maria. And then we'll go to our guests and then get into a bit of open conversation, I think. So, moving the camera, they're both sitting together, which is really nice from the camera point of view, isn't it? We've already heard fairly extensively from Joe, and I'll be coming back to him in a minute. But also welcome to the show, of course, Leslie. Leslie Kling from Tangle Grid. Good to have you back.
Thanks for having me.
How are things with Tangle Grid? You did have a few. You had a plea for help a couple of weeks ago, didn't you? Which is due to a few things.
Well, we wanted to update from 7.6 to version 8. And we might have jumped the gun a little bit. We kind of went to version 8.1 because we found that on the Git, I think, or where it was. T found it. And it messed us up bad.
Oh, dear.
And we tried on Westworld first, and it seemed to hold. But what was happening was the regions were there, but they weren't there. You'd come into a blank region, but you were running into prims that you couldn't see.
Oh, jeez.
And the whole grid went like that. That's why we were having the problems with Westwood at the beginning. So we think we had that figured out. We rolled it back to 8.3. But it does something to the database.
Yeah, actually,
I don't work anymore.
You did file a Mantis on it, right? So the developers can fix it. Yes.
I have to ask T. I don't know what he does, that crazy fool. So now we implemented it also on Tangle Grid. Well, guess what? Here we go again, and we're still having that problem. We're still not so much disappearing regions now. The prims are still there, but I got no picks. Timothy from ZeniMax. Is that the Max?
Yeah.
Helped me out quite a bit. He came over for a couple hours and walked T through it a few things. But now what's happening is our regions won't hold when avatars go there.
Oh, grief.
And we can't seem to roll it back far enough without hitting 7.6 again to keep dang things up.
Can you roll back to 7.6?
No,
then,
because 8.1 did something to the database, from what I understand from T, that it's changed something.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Man.
Everybody, before you upgrade, make a backup of everything first.
Oh, we do.
And then including the database, so that you can roll back, and do the upgrade on the beta grid first, not on the production grid.
Well,
or a small grid that isn't too important yet.
Well,
it reminds me actually
back, but there's still that. If we could find out what it's changed in the database, or whatever it's changed, the 8.1 did, so we can get that out.
It was very funny actually with Joe here when I saw him in the week when we were on our wonderful sailing adventure, which it really was. We came across a few problems, and I'm sure you won't mind me saying them, Joe. That you identified the problem rather late, and that was that you actually had two of the same simulator running up at the same time.
Dang those exe files.
We did. The viewer did not know which of the two identical servers we were on. So,
but and then we had the problems with the expo being delayed because my expo manager, the one who runs the thing, had lost his internet. We have now pushed it up to February 1st to February 21st. Everything's right up and running. He's back in. Everything's cool. We still would love to have more participants from hypergating or from the grid itself. It's sad, because we are allowing them to, let's say if they put their wares out, say you can find this on Kitely or created by, or get your names out there. The whole idea of the expo is not to make Tango Grid any bigger. It's to help, people get their names out there, that sort of thing.
Yeah. I was there yesterday.
Yeah, I seen you, Joe. I got a tattletale.
Guess what? Show builders in the grid.
Send me a press release with some pictures so I can post that up tomorrow to let people know that it's going on.
Yeah.
And contact information. I think a lot of creators really don't know how to do this, and they're kind of scared of asking, and they don't know who to start and how to contact people, especially when the contact information is in grid contact information. So, and if they're not grid residents, it's also harder for them to get to know people.
I try to toss it out there on the G Plus stuff, but I lost my media person as well, and because of this 8.1 thing, my hands have been quite full.
Yeah,
and I'm not sure if ISAM's quite up to the job of doing his own press stuff, but I will do my best to get you that information tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the other thing to do is to contact creators directly is from the Kitely market and say, listen, do you want a showcase for your stuff? We'd love to have you come. People really like to be asked personally. It sounds insane because it's to their own benefit, but it's just a lot of people really do not want to push themselves forward, even if they're merchants and are selling things. They're still shy.
Yeah, I don't. What I hate is when I hear, I'm not selling anything. I'm not, and I'm saying to them, did you put out a notice? Did you put out ads that you're here? Did you do this? Did you do that? It's not my responsibility as a grid owner to sell their stuff, unfortunately, and I don't have the time for it to start with.
Right, right.
Marketing is a whole different ballgame. I did notice that. I think it was somebody at Kitely posted a blog this morning. It wasn't Ileana, but I think it was actually on the Kitely blog, and they were specifically saying to their residents, you are doing yourself a disservice by overly promoting and spamming every Google Plus group, because people get fed up of seeing this thing and they block you.
So the coin, yeah.
Yeah, and they block you so they don't actually hear about your events. And,
there's a medium that's very difficult to walk along.
Yeah.
And another maybe a small note, I don't know what he's up to exactly, but I did get a message from Adam one time.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
He has decided to leave Tango Grid because of my issues with the regions being kind of flaky. It's now kind of pissed him off.
I suspect he gets pissed off very easily, and
not saying anything about Adam, because it was always that he could do his own thing. He can go, he can be wherever he wants to be. I got no problem with that.
Well, he does.
It's just
there's been a lot of controversy.
People were saying that he belonged to Tango, which he didn't. He just had a place to park his butt and do his show,
and a big sign saying Tangle TV.
But I put it there.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I've actually been getting. I don't like going into the gossip and
No,
and
me
the
either. I
personality
just want
thing,
everybody to
but
know that in case they thought that
Yeah.
there was a big fight or anything. There was no
Yeah.
fight or anything. It was just
No, what I
decided
was
to
saying,
move on and that sort of thing.
yeah,
So,
what I
okay,
was
cool.
about saying is I've actually had comments myself via Google Plus. Some people say, "Can you stop promoting Adam? You know, it's all rubbish and lies and stuff." And then other people seem to like it. And to me, it is one man doing his thing. It's not. I've decided it's really not a news show. It's a personality show, which includes news from his point
Yeah.
of view. And if you
That's-
take it like that, you don't have, it's like all TV. Switch it off if you don't want to watch it.
Well, this is my thought on the whole subject
Yeah.
too. Like
My
everybody's
topic-
getting on my neck about Adam, but Adam's his own man. Adam's doing his own thing. It's not
Exactly.
my responsibility to guide him or hold his hand.
Well, my responsibility is simply to let people know everything that's out there, and they
Yes,
they make their own
exactly.
they make their own decisions. So
Yes.
that's the way I view it.
And I find
well,
that, and I think that if Adam does irk somebody off, and unless he's really bad, and he has had his moments. Wow.
Adam's rough around the edges, but I don't think he makes up stories. I think he says what a lot of people want to say but don't say, and a lot of people find that offending.
Yeah.
But he is very rough around the edges. He's a comedian, but
Yeah.
he's a good guy, but he just comes across a little tough sometimes. I guess when he gets crossed, and
Yeah.
believe it or not, he's told me many stories that how people take him, because he doesn't promote them, inflate exactly what they have. In other words, you got a grid that's probably got 8 regions and you got really no content, and he'll say that, and that kind of gets grid owners perturbed.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
sometimes
Well,
he gets his
that's-
facts
that's
wrong.
fair.
Though.
Yeah,
Sometimes
that's
he
fair.
does.
I think that's the problem. It's fair enough he says that, because opinion. We express opinions on this show, but you don't want to go into speculation. But if a reporter gets their facts wrong, that's actually a lot more serious. So it's a responsibility to check your sources.
Like I watched your show. I think it was last week when you were talking about how Adam ended up at Dankoville, and you heard the comment he said about to me. Well. I have no control over Danko. Like, I'm just the grid owner. Hello. I don't put up the ban lists or anything else. And that particular incident, I had made a comment on the window about that, was that we were having the 8-1 issue, and he did land there. There was nothing. So the region was kind of down in its own little way. It would send them to Danko's landing for some reason. Maybe it was the closest region. I don't know what was going on with all that, but no, I don't know anything what's going on with Danko and Adam. I had no clue. So to swear at me on TV, I thought went too far.
Oh yeah.
Without asking me, and he did ask me after, but that's after the fact, and he's already got that news story spread all over God knows where.
Yeah.
That's the only little thing that irks me. If Adam wants to say the sky is orange, I don't care.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think he's doing a good job his own way, but maybe he does need to be a little bit more careful, bearing in mind his.
But it's not only Adam. There's others.
Yeah,
that do the same crazy stuff that you think. Well, hello, did you even ask anybody about that? Because that's so far from the truth. Please.
Well, we've had our own critics of this show from time to time saying, "Oh, Maria said that wrong," or "Oh, you said that wrong," or there's always you can't get everything right all the time, but
you're always going to piss somebody off. That's the way of the nature of the beast. I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Now your problems with the new OS, does that equally? Sorry.
It's okay.
No, the glitches you were mentioning. I wanted to ask you. I was letting you finish. Are those the sort of glitches that affect hypergrid visitors and residents equally, or is it a sort of glitch that's most is affecting
any avatar that hits the ground?
Right.
It don't matter if you're hypergate or whatever. It's you land.
Yeah.
And there ain't no print. It's like the region is blank.
Yeah.
But try walk around it. You're bouncing off the buildings because they're there. You just don't see them.
Well, you should make it. You should temporarily make it into a gaming grid, like the invisible,
My whole grid, my whole mainland. Yeah,
the invisible grid, like the invisible man. And you could give people a task to find their way out of a maze they can't see.
And now the biggest thing is that we think we kind of, because we rolled back a little bit to the 803.
Yeah.
That has somewhat stopped, but now when avatars land, they're crashing the regions out left, right, and center.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but what I do, and I'm no expert on this, but I have a lot of respect for the couple that runs Island Oasis. I've been in their grid many, many times, and it's always it's very smooth running, tight knit grid that really knows what's going on. And Damien, he's a pretty smart fella. So when 7.5 came out and was starting to sneak into 7.6, he was still using 7.4. I asked him, I said, why are you using 7.4? He says, you got to understand, my grid has got residents. These residents are paying me. I have to have something that's going to work flawlessly. And at the moment, 7.4 is the better option that's out there. And I don't think he's really one of those testing grids where, the next version that comes out, let me put it on my grid because I want to keep up with
what we did with all our paying customers, we left them 7.6.
Right.
We only hit 3 regions in mainland.
That's what
that's what had the problem.
7.6, he says, where there is no problems. And I haven't seen a problem running it since I've had my grid, and I beat this grid up that I have.
Well, we were thinking about going right back to 7.6, but now we have to find someone to tell us where it changed something. It's changed something somewhere. And
well, what I heard, again, I'm no expert, but from what I heard through a couple of developer friends is when they went to the 8s, when they left the 7.6.2, actually, because the 7.6.2, there was a little bug that they fixed. You didn't see a lot about it, but it's in the it's in OpenSim.org if you look for it.
I don't know. I don't know whether he's actually open for contacting on things like this, but I mean, it might be worth having a try of getting hold of Justin Clark Casey.
And
he might. He tends to have a grip on all the strands there, and he might actually sort of instinctively know the likelihood of what's The
0.8 is the big conversion from leaving ODE, introducing Devar, introducing Bullet. So yes, there's bugs in 0.8 that are actually fixed in 7.6, but that's why they're working on so many of these bugs in 0.8 right now, just to get it compatible to what it was when they ran, when ODE was the default. So I understand what they're doing.
This is actually getting very technical, I think, for some of our viewers. Out of interest, though, what version in this sequence are you running for Lost World? Or
she's 7.6.
7.6 with ODE.
Right.
Again, it's resource friendly, and it works. I don't have no problems with anything really. I had I'm going to tell you exactly what my computer is real quick. I have an i3 processor. That's an old one. I run 16 gigs of RAM. Okay, I can put 258 regions online without no lag. But then again, that's myself. I could run 80 regions with 30 people dancing at a party, because I have these tests where these people hold parties there, because my grid is more of an amusement grid.
Yeah.
There's no homes there. There's no stores there. Everything is an RPG themed grid. And, I have 258 if I put them all on.
I was just going to say, there's maybe no stores, but there's plenty of stories.
well, no. I mean, if you came in and said, Joe, I need a complete makeover. I want to look like my real life self, or I want an avatar that's going to be some kind of out of the GQ magazine. Well, that's what I did in Second Life, so I'll give it to you. All you have to do is ask me. You ask me for anything, it's yours.
Can you fix my 8.1? It's a
let
joke.
me
It's a
let
joke.
me let me
Joke.
let me focus on that a second, actually, because I'm sort of because I was chatting to you so much in the week, I've got a whole sort of queue of sort of things to bring up. You do, as you mentioned, have a long history in Second Life too, don't you? Where it was very much a commercial operation, and you left for various reasons, and
I left.
your
I was
approach to OpenSim is very different. Maybe you'd sort of describe that.
I was in RLC first, which is Red Light Center. I owned a club in there. There's not many clubs there. And when I owned that club, I had an escort service. I made maybe 600 USD a month from that escort service and owning a club in the Red Light Center. Then I went over with a friend to Second Life. I was, which was end of 2007. And I started with a science fiction spaceship kind of store called Alpha Centauri.
Oh, yeah.
I kind of went a little crazy with that because at that time that was the thing in Second Life. Second Life's got these fads where they got to have this, and then 6 months later it's something else. So then I went into creating shapes, skins, and the complete makeover of an avatar.
And you were the original people over there that actually started doing the photo avatars, offering that service for people to upload their photos, didn't you?
Well, not a lot of people want to look like their real life avatar, or some of them want.
Yeah, some of us think we want to, and then when we see the real thing, we think, oh, maybe not.
Yeah, so I created a store called The Body Shop, and it did very well. It had about 24,000 average traffic, but then it got to be the point where it was a job. I was there 7 days a week, all day. I never slept. I ate and did everything at my desk because what I did, you could not put it on the marketplace. I could, but it was better if I spoke to you personally and you wanted this certain look, and I would modify you as you stood there. And I sold cheap because my dad used to always say the constant nickel is better than the waiting for dime. So I was selling cheap and selling a lot. And before you know it, people started saying, go to the body shop, go to the body shop. And then I had to leave that. A fella named Alex Ferraris, I'm sure you know him.
Yeah.
I heard that name too.
In 2010, he opened up a grid called Avworlds, and he needed a builder. So that's where I came up with this crazy name. And because I was his builder, and I thought it was pretty much a joke. I'm in OpenSim at that time. And one thing led to another. He sent me into to SL to hire creators to give him content. This guy spent, a couple $1,000 in content. So that's how he went. And it's, Alex, back and forth, back and forth.
Yo.
Yeah, Mel said it.
Well, Alex is a friend of mine. I speak to him every other day on the phone, and he tries, but he's really got the ugly end of the stick here just lately with his Abbey World's domain name.
Yeah,
and it was he got jumped by a couple of bullies, and they, Alex is okay, but you gotta understand this guy. You gotta understand him.
He's a unique character, I think. We've had him on the show, and he was very pleasant, and he was very self-effacing too. He referred to his own grid as Yo-Yo Grid, because he heard of us referring to it like that so much. So he was really friendly and very open. But I just got the impression that he wasn't quite sure where he was going. A lot of our different ideas and an ever-changing sort of idea.
He changes a lot to try to figure out what works. But what works for Alex is that he is Brazilian himself. He speaks the language fluently. He's got some friends that are, majority of them are Brazilian and some Portuguese that rented from him when he was in SL as Ferraris Estates. SL did him a dirty deal, and he lost 31 regions. They took it away from one night to the next. So it was a dirty deal, but that's what he has now. He's got his friends and the Brazilians who find themselves alienated, so they stay in his grid.
I don't know where I should say this, but given that Maria was talking about the sex industry moving in, but somebody the other day, I was talking about Happy Worlds, and I made a reference to a Brazilian grid. And it was completely misinterpreted. They didn't think I was talking about nationality. They thought I was talking about something completely else, and that it was a porn grid of some sort. Anyway, so that is a rather funny aside. I won't go into that. Now, your building, I have to say, I mean, you're called Joe Builder, which is great, because when in fact, you hijacked me on the safari during the week, because we were meant to go on to a final stop, but I started talking to you after crashing all your planes and cars, and I didn't continue the hop, but we went on.
Ended up with a jet ski.
Yes, absolutely.
A brand new jet ski.
It is going backwards on this grid. I have to ask you about that at some point.
Okay, I meant to tell you.
Yeah,
I meant to tell you when you took it, that jet ski performs on ODE. It's not It doesn't run on the Bullock physics.
Yeah, I don't think this is bullets here. I'd have to check.
It is, I think, because you're running 8 something here, aren't you?
Yeah, Bullet's a little slower. Like the vehicles don't go as fast as they would in the ODE.
Well, I wasn't worried about the speed because I was off the grid before I pressed the forward button, so it worked in that sense. What actually happened though is it seemed to be driving sideways. It wasn't facing forward, and I've got such a small area. I thought it would fit down this narrow channel.
That thing's pretty fast for a small area.
Well, exactly. So it's got to be at the slowest speed, and it's got to bang its way down well, it's actually a sort of river, and that ends up in a lake that Tara created. We're not talking about vast expanse of land here for such a powerful device. But we'll talk about that later. But it was quite funny anyway, because I don't know. We were on for about 3 hours, and you took me in turn to so many different grids that are all part of those.
Well, you got to understand that I just don't do vehicles. What I wanted to do is I tried to figure out and learn the OpenSim, the virtual people in OpenSims, what are their interests?
Yeah.
I mean, what will draw them the majorities? And I have done every possible theme I could think of. I did Star Wars, I did Stargate, Star Trek. I did Elven Sims. I did Romantic Sims. Just about everyone you could possibly think of. I did a 16-region Rome. That's for RPG. There's horses there, armor. The whole 9 yards is there. But, I mean, people come, oh, this is nice, Joe. It's beautiful. Right. But nothing like, can we get some kind of RPG going? Can we all meet here? I haven't found that yet, so I'm kind of running out of ideas for themes. What would interest people?
Yeah, I actually love that, because you're clearly. We were talking about it because I'm a bit the same. You start on a project and then suddenly have a wild idea, and all your concentration shifts to that new one. What I actually think is actually great about your setup is that you have all you have a potentially a huge fast sim, all of your own, and only bits of it are online or deployed at a given time. There is one region that's always online, which.
Well, you know what I call it?
I think it's
on
great.
Demand.
Yeah. But if, for example, you want to start a role play community on, I don't know, an ecosim, you've firstly, that's a niche audience you've got to find, but secondly, they're not going to form the community there unless it's actually up all the while and they can get into it. Unless it's like a meeting every Saturday where you bring it up for them.
That's my current downfall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what Lonnie does, is they were having a scheduled thing. I mean, this was back when OS Grid was still up. They had a scheduled science fiction role play every week at a certain time, and they really promoted it for like several years, so everybody knew that this was going on there. And it's really hard to build that kind of recognition and awareness, and so people know, and they start scheduling their lives around it.
Right.
Speaking of OS Grid, what's up with that? Do you know, Maria?
Oh my God.
Bad subject?
Yeah. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid to announce that the news this week is that OS Grid is not yet back. We will keep you informed in due course.
That answers my question right
Whatever,
Okay.
whatever year that may tend to be. It's very sad, but
Okay, so
I'm sure we'll see it sometime.
they had an update on the 26th. They said that it looks like they're in generally positive shape to attempt a full asset recovery.
Wow.
So that sounds really good. And Melanie from Avenation Grid has been really helping them out get the assets back. But there is still no estimated date of recovery.
Right. Okay, we're getting down to the last 10 minutes or so here. It's amazing how time flies. I want to I want to come back to Adam generally and Leslie quickly.
You mean Joe?
The other thing, however, I am so impressed with Lost World as a creative sort of person. I mean, you just fall into all those regions are just adorable. There is one that you do actually have open all the while, and I'm pleased to say actually is that I'm actually planning to make a hypergate to it in one of the sets here, because it would be like an extension of a cave system. So they will walk into a cave that I've got to maybe use for filming a cave, and then there'll be a hypergate portal in there for people interested, so that if they want an even bigger cave, go here. And I fell in love with this construct. It's based on a grotto AR or something, but you've modified it completely, and it's all the landscaping, the basic structure of those caves is all mesh, isn't it?
No.
Oh no! Hang on.
There's some things I have in mesh, but that grotto, that's mostly sculptures. Okay. And I got kind of cheated on that a little bit.
I now know how you made it, but let's say before I did, I mean, just landing in there, in the big central entrance, and then you think there's enough to explore in that scene. And then you tell me, no, this isn't just a scene. This is a whole region, and you've got to find a way around. And then I started finding that I think you went off to do something and led me to it. I was just endlessly. It's like a maze following these caverns and coming to other little caverns. It's just so exotic and wonderful. It was, to me, for somebody in my sensibilities, it really exemplified. The kind of immersive environment that
I thought you wanted to film the area where the big bunny is.
I wanted to film everything I saw. I think. I mean, I've got to come back over there and do it. But certainly, the entrance to that is actually part of the bit that's actually always online, isn't it? So I'll definitely come back.
I actually sold 2 of those OARs that are there.
Oh. I bet you did, actually.
Well, some people, not every grid owner or somebody that pops up a new grid are really versed in building, or they want content quick. I need something here to get people to come to my grid, an attraction. So, and I don't advertise. You'll never see me say, this region is for sale or this is for sale. Mostly I give for free. But if they want a complete OAR, then we can talk about that. Like somebody wanted the ancient Rome, which is 16 regions of Rome, ancient Rome, and it's an educational place where I give a little history boards on why was this built, when was this built, and who built it. So you get a little history lesson as you explore Rome.
I remember Rome too. I mean, I tried to think how many Sims regions, I should say, that you've got that I haven't experienced yet. But
the new one,
I remember Rome. I've had the racing, I've had the driving track, I've had the planes, I've had the Glosso. We went to the Magic Forest. That was lovely too. You've really got it. You've really got it all. I must say, when I saw Lost World and your logo, I immediately thought of Jurassic Park because
I have that.
There's a familiarity.
Man's got Dino on his T-shirt.
Oh yeah.
That was the first thing I ever did. Was that big Jurassic Park sort of? I call it Lost World Park,
Yeah.
but it's full of dinosaurs. It's 16 regions in size, and it's very big. A lot of dinosaurs. Got a
And
big
it's
feed
and
pen.
it's quite scary at times. But yeah, it's it's very true to the layers of the movie and stuff as well. So or
Well,
inspired by. So but yeah, the work you. I mean, I have to ask you because I think that the work you do is. I think I really sympathise because it's organization, very sublime organization of component parts, and just having that knack of putting it
right.
all together.
And you want to know
It,
something?
yeah,
Anybody can do it. Though most of those things that I have in there is stuff that I've collected through 2010 and kept in my inventories that I always save.
yeah.
And it's just a matter of putting the right things in the right spot. And it takes patience, and you have to have that visual third eye to see how it's going to come out at the end. But this new project that I'm doing now, which is be open in a couple of weeks, is going to be real epic. It's going to be something you've never seen before. It's a it's basically a reef, an underground reef.
Oh gosh, yes,
That's
yes, I've seen
it's
that.
four regions in size. Everything is underwater. There's mermaids under there and thousands of fish and thousands of plants. There's going to be a touring sub where you jump in and the sub will bring you around the whole place and back to where you started.
And
Yeah,
it's got a lovely ruined city.
it's got a few things.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I wanna step in and disagree with Joe with Joe here.
Okay.
Joe, I have been trying to build things for the past 5 years.
Okay.
And you know what, Joe? I've also been trying to draw things on and off throughout my whole life.
Okay.
I have not been able to get beyond a stick figure in drawing, even though my mom is a professional artist and painter, and it should run in my genes. It does not. And even though technically I know the tools and I can arrange them on a grid, it
Right.
looks awful.
Okay.
And somebody comes in with an eye for 3D stuff, and they wave their arms around, and all of a sudden it looks beautiful.
Okay.
So not
That's
everybody can do it.
Okay.
Sure,
Okay.
but you're a different story. You have an extremely lot of stuff on your plate. So when you start to build your sim and you have this idea what you want it to look like, you have to have complete focus on this because it's not a
Agreed.
simple task. And like I said, your mind might be going to, well, I got to get this paper done or I got to get that paper done, and you're not fully concentrated on it. Like, for instance, let me give you a perfect example. Maria, I am not a scripter. I couldn't make a set script if you paid me. Now, but what I do is this. I'll take a script like, say, a guy named even Hero. Hero, he's a good scripter. He made some boats. And I look at it and I said, dang, this thing does not go very well. It's horrible. So I'll sit there for hours and days and even weeks sometimes, changing every little number. Say it's got 0.05. I'll change to 0.25 and see what the boat does. If the boat acts better, I'll save that copy, delete the other one, drop that copy again, and I'll change another number. So actually I get it to perform how I want it, how OpenSim is the tools that it gives me to make it go better. And that's how I got the cars.
I'm like that too. It's like with my desktop, everything has got to be customized to be the way I want it, and I don't care where anybody else likes it. Though often people do. But so there's, we're running out of time actually. So when I left you the other night, I said, have a look around here. And I don't know whether you did, but one of the nice things over here has been the fact not only building the broadcast studios for Metaworld, but bringing up what I call Malburn's estate from Reaction Grid and playing with that. And it's possibly. I mean, I've always wanted to do it, but it's possibly the first time I've really spent an awful lot of hours fiddling and tweaking and sort of bringing on the experience I've had over several years with Second Life and OpenSim, and actually think, well, I can try doing this myself now. So I don't know what you saw of it, but I mean, I remember saying, let me know what you think, because your opinion, if you have one, it's one I would really rather value. I realize how amateur it is the moment I compare it to all yours. But
if you give me 1 minute, I want to explain something to Maria really fast.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay. Here's me, Maria. The reason why I use the 7.6 and the ODE, it's because it's a challenge. I'm here for the challenge. The challenge is I want to do something that somebody else couldn't do. And that's the only reason, to be quite honest with you, that I stay with the older version and the older physics, because I think they threw in the towel much too early on it. The Mantis is incorrect for me on certain things that pertain to physics. And I've proven this many, many, many times. And I just think that the fellas behind the scenes more or less threw the towel in, and I'm just picking up on myself. I'm alone, making it work. What they say did not work. We have no physics in OpenSim.
Yeah, I kind of wish when they do put out a release, I wish they would put it out almost complete, or hire a couple of grids to test them out first. Because,
I always said they need a separate grid, put it on a separate grid, get it 100%, and then release it to the public.
But I think that's what OS Grid was for, wasn't it?
Basically.
Hang on, folks. I'm afraid we're at 90 minutes, right? So I need to start wrapping. This always happens when we have an extended first half, because the open discussion is great. I'm going to do what I always do. And we're going to run a bit over time, because I'm going to go around everybody in turn to get
final words.
Get their thoughts. I'm going to start with you. I'm sorry, we've actually had we've had enough of you, Leslie.
I know what I loved.
I mean, we have allowed you to open your mouth. I didn't mean that. I was about to say
put the other foot in now. Put the other foot in.
I was about to say, I feel like we neglected you in all the excitement of Joe's stuff. But what I like to do at the end of the show is actually ask everybody for their, quickly, of course, their highlights from the last week and the coming week, and any other general thoughts they want to close with. So take it away.
Who?
Uninterrupted.
Oh, wow.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh. Go ahead, Leslie.
Please try to get yourself over to Tango Grid. Come and join us at the expo. It's a great time. We've got 6 per year, different themes, different everything. Be patient with Tango Grid at the moment, because we are experiencing some technical difficulties. Westworld is up and running good. So I still have 3 lots empty if you want to try them out. And on to you, Joe.
I pretty much had a great time this week. I had HG Safari over. Hopefully everybody had a good time. That's what I try to do. Like I said many, many times, if anybody out there needs anything, and I have a lot of stuff, don't be scared. Come by and ask me, and it's yours.
Wonderful. And it is great stuff, believe me. Okay, Maria, round up.
Okay.
Fast.
So, here's the layers of OpenSim. You have the experimental release. Only OS Grid should be using it. Then you have the release candidate that just came out. Use it on the beta grid for testing. Then there's the official release. If use it if you're a cutting edge grid. Then there's the post fixes release, where they add in all the bugs that the people found when the official release came out. And then there's the previous release. So if you're
7.6.
if you're conservative, you'll always want to run the previous release, If you're moderately conservative, you'll be running the post-fixes release. If you want to be like, on the latest thing, you run the recommended release. And if you're experimenting, if you have a beta grid, you run the preview release, and then the most cutting edge is the experimental ones. So that's the landscape there of those things.
Maria,
she tells me.
Maria, you have just made OpenSim sound like a very concise version of Microsoft's bloatware. Okay, Tara, closing thoughts.
Closing thoughts. Well, I would just like to comment that, some people are visual and they do really well at arranging.
Agreed.
Okay.
And some people are auditory. And
we lost
a natural thing for you. Yeah. So you can arrange words, but arranging, physical objects may get away from you. So, don't view it as a failing. Just use it as a different skill set.
Exactly.
That's it for me.
I couldn't write a sentence if my life depended on it.
Yes. We all have our, somewhat suspect talents. We are totally devoid of any others sometimes. Leave it to the experts. That's what cooperation is all about. And I'll say one thing about OpenSim and the hypergrid. It is to a wonderful extent all about cooperation. The way one grid will help another grid, the way people share stuff, the whole nature of the hypergrid. Don't try and do it all yourself. Look for the other folks that can do things that maybe you're not so good at and concentrate on your own talents. That's all I can say. Okay, well, I do have to call it a wrap because, as previously explained, we, open-ended or not, we have to stick to 90 minutes as best we can. So I'd like to thank all our guests once again. Firstly, thank you to Leslie Kling from Tangle Grid. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, Joe Builder, for wonderful building and wonderful chat too. Thank you, Joe.
You're most welcome.
And thank you, Maria.
Always a pleasure to be here, Mel.
And of course, thank you to Tara.
You're most welcome.
So if you want more news throughout the week, follow twitter.com/malburns or indeed twitter.com/hypergridbusiness or even twitter.com/metamaria. Not much to tell between them, to be honest. And that really is just about it. So also news daily from, of course, the Current Journal at currentjournal.com, I guess, and Hypergrid Business itself, hypergridbusiness.com, and all over the place. And we bring you the highlights here every week. We will be back here at the Metaverse Studios next week, and the week after that we will be revisiting Second Life, where we'll be doing an outside broadcast from the 1 Billion Rising event, which is also, of course, Valentine's Day. We'll be having various women guests, including an author, Adele Ward, who's also a Green Party politician, but we'll be dealing with that when the time comes. And that's it. If you want to watch this program in replay and any of our back programs for that matter, in glorious high definition, HTML5, of course, none of your silly little flash widgets. It will play on Linux, on Windows, on Macintosh, on your iPad, your Android pad, and probably even your smart TV, if you can make your TV get through to it. Go to slartist.com, SLARTIST.com. Sorry, .com. You know that bit anyway, don't you? So thanks everybody for watching, and until next week, I will leave you with the obligatory good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or indeed good tomorrow, depending on wherever and whenever you are. We'll see you soon.